Hey guys, it's Pineapple again, and today we're going to be taking our third dip into My Hero Academia's Ultra Analysis Databook. If you aren't aware, this is the third part in a video series where I take 10 facts from the Japanese-only databook written by Horikoshi that covers from chapter 1 all the way to chapter 240 of the My Hero manga. The book has all sorts of canon facts and interesting tidbits on various characters in the world, and there's 200 pages of info to cover, so even after these 10 facts, there's still stats and relationship guides to cover, so let's get this video to 2,500 likes to let me know that you want more. Once we get there, I'll start working on all of Class 1A stats and how they've improved, so smash that like button if you're interested in learning more from the book. You can follow me on Twitter at VocalPineapple, or you can subscribe here and hit that bell icon and set up notifications so you can keep up with all of my uploads. With that said, let's get to the video after that intro. Hit it! Of course, like in my first two videos, I want to thank Audrey, Shibuya Smash, and Scum or Shimikanda on Twitter for their translations and pages that I use to form these videos. They've done a really good job in translating everything, so salute to them, and let's get started. First off, number 1 in this list is a fact about the up-and-coming hero, Kamui Woods. We learned from the databook that after the Kamino Ward incident with All Might and All For One, Edgeshot was so impressed with Kamui Woods that he asked them to team up together. This makes sense since their combo was pretty powerful when it came to the Hideout raid in Season 2. Kamui was able to lock down everyone with his lacquer prison technique, while Edgeshot just pretty much shot himself through their bodies to incapacitate them. Apparently, Kamui was so happy about the team up with Edgeshot that he sobbed for 2 whole hours. This team up with Edgeshot definitely has to be a factor in Kamui's rise in popularity, and we see these guys together in the manga as part of the current internships arc. So let's hope that we get to see this combo in action once again. For our second fact, we have something a bit less happy depending on your perspective. We learned from the databook that Endeavor still isn't allowed to see Rei, the Todoroki family's mom. This is interesting because he's the #1 hero now who's had a massive moment in the spotlight to prove himself to society during his fight with the Heian Nomu Hood. Hood really put Endeavor through his paces, and Endeavor almost died, but he turned it around and won over the trust of the public to a large extent. Even with this, it isn't enough for him to be allowed to see his wife though. What is it gonna take, and are we gonna see Endeavor earn the right to see his wife again during this arc that we're currently in the manga? After all, we do keep seeing panels of Rei praying or sitting, and now Class 1A's Big 3 is gonna be going with Endeavor to a dinner at the Todoroki family home. You'd pretty much have to imagine that something's gonna go wrong here after Horikoshi and his editor both talked about how heated and wild this arc would be compared to the last one. I'd expect a certain older brother to finally make his appearance, setting off the confirmation of a long-held theory in the community. But for now, we have to wait and move on to fact number 3. For number 3, let's use our memories for a moment. Earlier in the series, we learned about a few prolific criminals in the My Hero Academia world. One of them was Destro, the leader of the Superpower Liberation Army, and another one was All For One. But the third is a character that still hasn't come back to be relevant in our story. His name is Oji Harima, the Uncanny Thief. Well, we've never had much information on him, but just like how Destro seemed to be a random name drop that eventually led to its own arc, I have faith that Oji Harima is going to be involved in the story somehow in the future. In the Ultra Analysis Databook, we learn just a little more about this character. It says that Harima was a thief who dressed in a peculiar costume. He mainly targeted rich people, and then he took the money that he stole from them and gave it to the poor. He was like My Hero Academia's Robin Hood, and he even had the support of some of the population in the My Hero world who didn't see him as a villain in the same way that they'd see Shigaraki or Overhaul. It's interesting to note that both All For One and Destro are villains that have managed to assemble large groups and armies due to their ideology or their power or their force of personality. It would make sense then that Oji Harima would be a similar case since he was mentioned at the same time as these two guys, and there might just be a whole secret group of Robin Hood style thieves hidden in the world of My Hero Academia waiting to set off a huge heist in the name of their icon, the Uncanny Thief. For our fourth fact, we actually have something about the Big 3 students of UA that we're seeing a lot of in this season of My Hero Academia. We learned that Tamaki and Nejire are actually in Class 3A, however Mirio is actually in Class 3B. This is interesting because you'd think that all 3 of the Big 3 would be from the same class, however Mirio is actually a B class student the entire time. It's interesting how this is different from the first years, with the 3 most prominent students in the grade all coming from Class 1A. It's also pretty interesting to think that a Class 1B student might actually improve enough to give either Deku, Bakugo, or Todoroki a challenge for that Big 3 spot. Now for number 5, we're actually going to slow things down for a second, but let me explain why. The Ultra Analysis book actually breaks down the threat levels of villains so we know which characters are more dangerous or at least more important than others. Our fifth fact is going to be me breaking down the threat levels of our villains according to the book. At the bottom of C class, we have the following. We have Spinner, the League of Villains resident lizard, Mustard, the sleeping gas wielding middle schooler that joined the League for the Forest training operation in Season 3, Giron, the League's arm dealer, Setsuno, Hojo, and Tabe, the 3 members of the Shihai Sakai that are going to be fighting against Tamaki during the raid this season, Tengai, who shields Rappa in his fight against Kirishima, Nemoto, who, well, you know what he does, Deidoro, the Shihai Sakai's resident drunk, Katsukame, the largest member of the Shihai Sakai, the Gentle Criminal and La Brava from the end of the Culture Festival arc, and Curious, the Superpower Liberation Army's Yoshikage Kira clone. Now in B class, we have the following. We have Kurogiri, the League of Villains' personal warp gate, Mr. Compress, the League of Villains' resident Pokemon trainer, Magna, the bloodstain on the floor, Moonfish, the straitjacket wearing psycho with the extended teeth from the Forest training arc, Overhaul, our main villain from My Hero Academia Season 4, Chronostasis, which is Overhaul's right man from the Shihai Sakai, Mimic, the Shihai Sakai's most annoying member, in my opinion, to be honest, Rappa, the Shihai Sakai's most loved member, in my opinion, to be honest, Skeptic, the Superpower Liberation Army's Gorillas member, Trumpet, the Superpower Liberation Army's Donald Trump, and Getten, the prettiest boy and coldest boy in the entire series. In A class, we have the following. Dabi, the villain also known as Blue Flame, Toga, the League of Villains' cat-like bloodsucker, Muscular, the League's imprisoned muscle, the All Might countering Nomu from Season 1 that stood toe-to-toe with All Might for a while, Stain, the hero killer, Redestro, the stressed-out leader of the Hidden Superpower Liberation Army, and Dr. Daruma Ujiko, the League of Villains' primary source for power and the creator of the Nomu. Finally, in S class, it's not a very long list, we have Shigaraki, the main villain of My Hero Academia, All for One, the Dark Emperor of the World, Hood, the high-end Nomu who nearly killed both Hawks and Endeavor in his first appearance, and Gigantomachia, All for One's trump card who can grow massive in size while holding multiple quirks in his body. Now, the most interesting person in this S class is actually one that you might not have expected to see this high up here with All for One and the high-end Nomu. That person is Twice. Twice is actually listed in the S class along with these guys, and I mean, you have to understand when you remember that Twice could literally clone himself repeatedly until he covered the entire planet in Twice clones. He easily creates enough clones to fill multiple city blocks in just moments, and the exponential growth that there'd be from every clone just going on to clone themselves and vice versa would be a massive problem. It's actually an extremely dangerous quirk. For number 6, similarly to the villains, the heroes also have a ranking system, but it definitely seems to be a bit looser than the villains chart. For the heroes, they're broken down into different groups by rarity, like there were cards or units in a gacha game. There's normal, rare, and super rare. There's too many heroes for me to get into in just this video, but we can go over the characters at the very top of the ranking in super rare. In super rare, we have Deku, the future symbol of peace and future greatest hero, Bakugo, the end of All Might, Todoroki, Katy Perry's favorite quirk user, Tetsu, the metallic Kirishima clone, Monoma, who's pretty much All for One Jr., Kendo with the big hands, Mirio Togata, the Phantom Menace and best janitor, Tamaki, the Sun Eater, Hado, the fairy princess, All Might, the greatest hero the world has ever known, Endeavor, the symbol of power, Hawks, the 20% serious number 2 hero, and Best Jeanist, a big fan of duffel bags. For interesting fact number 7, we're going to take it back for a second. Now, in a previous video, we explained that Ochako had put in a request for a new hero costume, and now we've finally seen it in the manga. This was something that a lot of people missed at first because the changes are actually pretty subtle, but we learned that there'd be a new costume for her thanks to the Ultra Analysis book in the first place. This was something that a lot of people missed at first because the changes are pretty subtle, but we first learned that there'd be a new costume for her thanks to the Ultra Analysis book. She has new updated headgear that doesn't seem to have a visor, but does seem to give her a more bunny-like design, which is interesting when you remember that Deku's costume also has Jackrabbit-like ears to it. She also has a slightly different jumpsuit and new gauntlets with holes in them that one could only assume have small air boosters in them, which she'd be able to take advantage of in zero gravity. She also got rid of that weird waistband thing that she had, and now has 2 pieces of gear on both sides of her hips, but it isn't clear what these do. It could just be that they help her remain stabilized when she's flying in zero G, but that remains to be seen. I'm also going to assume that her boots got boosters or the same holes in the bottom that her gauntlets do, so expect to see Ochako flying and having more control over her jumps and movements because that's what she realized she needed after having to jump to grab Deku in the 1A versus 1B battles. For number 8, we have something relevant to this season of the show, since in the back half, our students are going to be prepping for the Culture Festival. Thanks to the Ultra Analysis book, we actually learn about the different things going on at the UA Culture Festival, thanks to Mineta and Kaminari's schedule for the day. The Culture Fest starts at 9 AM with Class 1A's performance starting at 10 AM. That performance will hopefully be a big, huge moment in the season if Bones goes all out, but there's even more that we didn't get to see. After the lunch break at noon, there are multiple events like the beauty contest at 1 PM, which we saw, but at 2 PM, there's multiple things happening at once. There's a haunted mansion, a cosplay maid cafe, a bouncy ball scoop battle at UA's pool, the students showed each other their student film projects that some have been working on, and there was a singing competition, and on top of all of this, there were multiple stands and places to get things like boba and burgers and other foods, so our students were never hungry. All in all, it sounds like the Culture Fest was an amazing rest and fun time for the students that comes after a massively dark and heavy arc, so it makes it all the much better that Deku manages to save it from Gentle. For our second to last fact, we learned the birthplaces for various characters, but of course, the most important one is All Might's. Remember that Endeavor calls All Might the American during the Hideout raid in Season 2, leading some people to speculate that All Might might have been born in the US and came to Japan as a baby, or at least that All Might has an American parent. Well, in the Ultra Analysis book, it's confirmed for us all that All Might was indeed born in Tokyo, Japan. He's a big fan of American culture and also mixed it into his hero persona and his techniques, but he's Japanese through and through. Also born in Tokyo are Aizawa, Present Mic, and Night Eye. There's also birthplaces for other pro heroes like Endeavor, who was born in Shizuoka, Hawks, who was born in Fukuoka, Genist, who was born in Okayama, and Mirko, who was born in Hiroshima. Finally, to close this video off on a nice and peaceful note, we have the fact that since Shinso has been training under Aizawa and has now passed the Hero Department's exam, his friends in his class are all planning a going away party for him to congratulate him on finally becoming a true hero, or at least starting down the path in earnest. This is a surprise party since Shinso doesn't know about it, but hopefully we'll get to see this right before the beginning of the student's second year at UA, which is coming up in just 4 months in the series. With that said, these were 10 even more interesting facts from the My Hero Academia Ultra Analysis guide that we found this time around, but what did you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below, and remember, if you want another video on all of the Class 1A's character stats and how they've improved from the first data book, get this video to 2,500 likes. I love you guys, and I've got some interesting stuff coming up, and I'm sorry that the episodes for My Hero Academia keep getting canceled for dumb reasons like the World Rugby Tournament. That's so silly, but that just gives me a little more time to work on videos and whatnot, so be excited, there is some stuff coming. I love you guys, I'll see you later. It's Pineapple. Peace.